Taiho stood frozen at the entrance of Seoul International University. His four-fingered hands clutched the straps of his backpack tightly. The tall buildings of the campus towered above him, filled with the creatures he had only seen in videos. Humans. Taiho's smooth blue skin glistened in the morning sunlight. Unlike the humans rushing past him, his skin had no pores, no hair, and no flaws. Meldarians like him were born with their skin, lived with it, and died with it, never changing, never shedding. "You must be the exchange student." A cheerful voice broke through Taiho's thoughts. A young human man approached him with a wide smile. He wore a university jacket and carried a tablet. "I am Chunho. I will be your roommate and guide," the human said, extending his hand. Taiho stared at the offered hand. In his 3 months of human cultural training, he had learned about this custom. Carefully, he reached out and grasped Chunho's hand. "I am Taiho of Melder. Thank you for your welcome," he said in carefully practiced Korean. Chunho's eyes widened. "Your Korean is very good. Come, I'll show you to our room." As they walked through the campus, Taiho noticed many students turning to look at him. He was, after all, the first Meldarian to ever study on Earth. The exchange program was new, a bridge between their worlds. Their room was small but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, a shared bathroom. Chunho helped Taiho unpack his few belongings. "The cafeteria is open until 10. Are you hungry? Can you eat our food?" Chunho asked. "Yes, I can eat most Earth foods. No meat, though," Taiho replied. As they walked to the cafeteria, Taiho noticed something strange. Chunho kept touching his face, first rubbing his cheek, then scratching his forehead. Later, he brushed something from his shoulder. In the cafeteria, Taiho saw more curious behaviors. A female student applied a shiny substance to her lips. Another rubbed white cream onto her hands. A male student scratched his arm vigorously, leaving red marks. "Are humans in pain?" Taiho asked quietly. "What? No, why do you ask?" Chunho looked confused. "Everyone is. Touching themselves, scratching, applying substances." Chunho laughed. "Oh, that's normal. Human skin gets dry or itchy sometimes. The creams help keep it soft." Taiho nodded, though he didn't understand. Meldarian skin never itched or needed creams. After dinner, they met with Professor Kim, the head of the exchange program. "Welcome, Taiho," the professor said. "As part of your studies here, you'll need to complete a research project. Since you are our first non-human student, I think it would be valuable if you documented your observations about humans from your perspective." "My observations?" Taiho asked. "Yes, what you find strange or interesting about us. The differences between our species that we might not even notice ourselves." Taiho thought about the scratching, the creams, the constant touching. "I would be happy to do this research." That night, back in their room, Taiho watched as Chunho went through a complex routine before bed. He washed his face with foaming liquid, applied 3 different creams, and then climbed into bed. "Good night, Taiho," Chunho said, turning off the light. "Good night," Taiho replied, lying in the dark with his eyes still open. In the silence, he heard Chunho scratch his arm briefly. Then came a small sound, like something tiny falling. Taiho's sensitive hearing picked up many such small sounds around the room. He opened his notebook app on his tablet and made his first research entry. Humans constantly touch their outer covering. They apply substances to it, and something seems to be coming off them. Tiny pieces that fall in the night. I must learn more about this strange behavior. Little did Taiho know that his research was about to lead him to a discovery that would horrify him to his core. A week had passed since Taiho arrived on Earth. He sat at his desk, watching Chunho get ready for class. His human roommate pulled on a dark blue shirt and reached for his backpack. That's when Taiho saw it. Tiny white flakes on Chunho's shoulders and back. They stood out clearly against the dark fabric. "Chunho," Taiho said, pointing. "There is something on your shirt." Junho twisted to look. "Oh, just some dry skin. No big deal." He brushed the flakes away with his hand and continued getting ready. Taho's eyes widened. Dry skin. Were pieces of Junho's body falling off? He quickly made a note in his research tablet. Later that day, in the campus cafeteria, Taho watched humans more closely. A female student named Subin scratched her arm, and small flakes fell onto her tray. She didn't even notice. At another table, a male student named Doyun rubbed his face, and tiny skin pieces clung to his fingernails. Taho could barely eat his lunch. He was surrounded by creatures who were falling apart. That afternoon, Taho had his first biology class with Professor Juwu. She was a tall woman with short hair and glasses. The classroom was large, with pictures of Earth creatures on the walls. "Today we will discuss how living things adapt to their environments," Professor Juwu said. "Different species have different ways of dealing with damage and growth." She showed images on the large screen. Plants growing new leaves. Lizards regrowing tails. Then came pictures of human skin cells. Humans completely replace their outer skin layer every 2 to 4 weeks, Professor Juwu explained casually. "We shed almost 1 million skin cells every day." Taho froze in his seat. 1 million cells. Every day. He looked around the classroom. None of the human students seemed shocked or worried. They just took notes as if this was normal. "This is why exfoliation is part of many human skincare routines," Professor Juwu continued. "It helps remove dead skin cells and allows new ones to surface." Taho raised his hand slowly, trying to keep his voice steady. "Excuse me, Professor. Are you saying that humans lose their skin regularly?" Professor Juwu nodded. "Yes, but it's microscopic. We don't shed our skin all at once like some reptiles. It's a continuous process." The other students chuckled at his question. Taho felt his heart beating faster. This couldn't be normal. Meldarians kept the same skin their entire lives. Any damage was permanent. How could a species survive if their outer protection was constantly falling off? After class, Taho hurried to the library. He needed to learn more about this terrible condition affecting humans. In the biology section, he found books on human anatomy. The images inside disturbed him deeply. Layers of skin constantly dying and being replaced. Hair falling out and growing back. Even stranger, none of the books described this as a disease or problem. That evening, Taho was in the dorm bathroom when he heard Junho in the shower. "I need to use that new scrub," Junho said to himself. "My skin is so flaky lately." Through the frosted glass, Taho saw Junho rubbing his body vigorously with some kind of rough cloth. Small pieces seemed to be coming off his skin. Taho backed out of the bathroom quietly. In their room, he noticed Junho's bed had tiny skin flakes on the sheets. The floor around their desks had more flakes. Even the air seemed to contain floating human bits. He opened his research notes and typed with trembling fingers. Humans are shedding their outer coating constantly. They remove it deliberately with tools and chemicals. An entire room of students showed no concern when told they lose 1 million pieces of themselves every day. Is this mass denial of a terrible condition? Or is there something about humans I don't yet understand? Taho looked at his own smooth, unchanging blue skin. What horrors awaited him tomorrow? 2 weeks had passed, and Taho could not stop thinking about human skin. He watched his classmates constantly, noting every scratch, every flake, every skin product they used. His research notes were now filled with observations about the human skin condition, as he called it. One morning, Taho woke up earlier than usual. The sun was just rising, and Junho was still asleep. As Taho gathered his things to shower, he heard Junho's alarm go off. "Morning," Junho mumbled, reaching for his phone. "You're up early." "Yes, I have extra study time today," Taho replied. Junho nodded sleepily and headed to the bathroom first. Taho waited patiently, reviewing his notes for the biology test later that day. 15 minutes passed. Tahoe needed to brush his teeth before class. He knocked on the bathroom door. "Juno, may I come in?" he called. "Sure, just finishing up," Juno replied. Tahoe opened the door and froze in horror. Juno was standing in front of the mirror with something white and peeling covering half his face. As Tahoe watched, Juno grabbed an edge of this white layer and began pulling it off his skin. "Ah!" Tahoe screamed, backing against the wall. Your face is coming off." Juno jumped in surprise, the face mask still hanging from his fingers. "What? No, it's just a..." But Tahoe wasn't listening. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the floor in a dead faint. "Tahoe, T-A-E-A-O." Juno's voice seemed far away. When Tahoe opened his eyes again, he was lying on a bed in a white room. A human woman in a white coat stood over him, checking something on a screen. "He's waking up," she said. "Hello, Tahoe. I'm Dr. Minji from the University Medical Center." Tahoe tried to sit up quickly. "The humans. They're all dying. Their faces are falling off." Dr. Minji gently pushed him back down. "No one is dying, Tahoe. Your roommate was using a face mask. It's a cosmetic product. I saw him peeling his face off." Tahoe insisted, his voice shaking. The door opened, and Junho walked in, looking worried. "Tahoe, I'm so sorry I scared you. It was just a sheet mask with skin products. Look." He held up a small packet with a picture on it. Dr. Minji sat on the edge of the bed. "Tahoe, there seems to be a misunderstanding about human biology. Junho told me you've been concerned about human skin shedding. Yes, humans lose millions of skin cells every day. Your professor said so." Tahoe's 4 fingers clutched the bedsheet tightly. "That's correct, but it's completely normal and healthy for humans," Dr. Minji explained gently. "Our skin cells die and are replaced constantly. It's how we heal from injuries and adapt to our environment." Tahoe shook his head. No, that's not possible. No species can survive like that. You're all sick and don't know it." Dr. Minji and Juno exchanged worried glances. "Maybe this will help," Dr. Minji said, turning a screen toward Tahoe. "This is a microscopic view of healthy human skin cells." The screen showed layers of cells, some falling away at the top, new ones pushing up from below. It looked organized, not like a disease at all. But Tahoe couldn't accept it. He turned away from the screen. "I need to warn my people," he whispered. That night, after they released him from the medical center, Tahoe waited until Chunho was asleep. Then he took out his special communication device, the one for emergencies only. With trembling hands, he recorded a message to the Meldarian Science Council. *Emergency alert from Earth observer Tahoe. I have discovered a potentially catastrophic condition affecting all humans. Their outer protective layer is continuously dying and shedding. They lose approximately 1 million skin cells daily. Most alarmingly, they consider this normal. I fear Earth may harbor an environmental pathogen that could threaten Meldarian visitors. Request immediate scientific investigation team. This is not a drill. Tahoe sent the message, knowing it would take 3 days to reach Melder. He looked at Juno sleeping peacefully, unaware that his roommate had just called for help to save him from a condition he didn't even know he had. 3 days had passed since Tahoe sent his urgent message to Meldar. He now had a new mission: collect evidence of the human skin condition. Every morning, Tahoe woke up before Juno and carefully collected skin flakes from his roommate's bed with small tweezers. He stored them in clear containers labeled with dates and times. He did the same with hair strands found in their shower drain. In class, Tahoe sat at the back corner, watching his classmates. He made detailed notes about who scratched the most, who applied skin products, and who had visible flaking. "Is this seat taken?" a female voice asked one day in the library. Tahoe looked up to see a human student with long hair and glasses. He recognized her from his biology class. "No, please sit," he replied, quickly closing his notebook. "I'm Hayuri. I'm studying dermatology," she said with a smile. "You're Tahoe, right? The exchange student from Meldar." Tahoe nodded cautiously. Then a thought struck him. Dermatology, the study of skin. This human might be useful for his investigation. "Yes, I am Tahoe. Dermatology sounds interesting. You study human skin problems." Hayuri nodded. "Skin diseases, treatments, and basic skin biology. It's fascinating how our largest organ works." "Largest organ?" Tahoe asked, confused. "Yes, skin is an organ, just like the heart or lungs. It's our body's first defense against the outside world," Hayuri explained. Tahoe leaned forward, seeing an opportunity. "I would like to learn more about human skin for my cultural research project." Hayuri smiled brightly. "Really? That's great. Not many people find skin as interesting as I do. I'm working in the dermatology lab this afternoon. Would you like to visit?" This was perfect. Tahoe could gather scientific information directly from a human skin expert. "Yes, I would like that very much," he said. Later that day, Hayuri showed Tahoe around the university's dermatology lab. She pointed to a large microscope connected to a screen. "Want to see something cool?" she asked. "This is a live view of skin cells." Tahoe watched as Hayuri placed a small scraping from her arm under the microscope. On the screen appeared flat, almost clear cells. "These are dead skin cells from the outermost layer," Hayuri explained. "They're meant to fall off. Below them are living cells that will eventually move up and replace them." She adjusted the microscope to show deeper layers. "See how organized it is? The new cells are created at the bottom layer. They slowly move up, flatten out, die, and then shed. It's a perfect system." Tahoe stared at the screen. The process did look organized, not like a disease at all, but he still couldn't accept it. "How can losing parts of yourself be good?" he asked. "It's how we adapt," Hayuri said. "If we kept the same skin forever, we couldn't heal from injuries or adjust to new environments. It would be like wearing the same clothes forever without changing them." Tahoe thought about that. Meldarians did keep the same skin forever. Any cut or burn left a permanent mark. Back at the dorm that evening, Tahoe found Junho looking through his side of the room. "Have you seen any small clear containers?" Junho asked. "I thought I had some for my science project." Tahoe froze. His collection containers were hidden under his bed. "No, I haven't seen any," he lied. Junho frowned, looking around the room. His eyes stopped at Tahoe's bed, where the corner of a container was visible. "What's that?" Junho asked, pointing. Before Tahoe could stop him, Junho pulled out one of the containers. His eyes widened as he saw the contents. "Are these skin flakes?" "My skin flakes," Junho asked, his voice rising. "And is that my hair? Have you been collecting pieces of me?" "I can explain," Tahoe started to say. But at that moment, his communication device beeped. The message that appeared made Tahoe's heart race. Asterisk alert received. Meldarian scientific quarantine vessel dispatched to Earth. Arrival in 48 hours. Maintain observation. Limit contact with affected individuals. Help is coming. Asterisk. The university's main lecture hall had been quickly converted into a meeting room. On one side sat the Meldarian scientists in their white containment suits. On the other side sat human doctors, biologists, and government officials. Tahoe sat uncomfortably in the middle. President Lee stood at the front of the room. "We have arranged this scientific panel to resolve this misunderstanding. We welcome our Meldarian visitors and hope for a peaceful solution." Captain Neri nodded stiffly. "We wish no conflict. We are here to investigate a potential biological threat." Dr. Minji from the University Medical Center stepped forward. "There is no threat. What Tahoe has observed is normal human biology." She turned to the large screen behind her, which showed microscopic images of skin cells. Human skin is made of layers, she explained simply. The bottom layer makes new cells. These cells slowly move upward. By the time they reach the surface, they are dead and flat. Then they fall off. This happens all the time. One of the Meldarian scientists spoke up. No intelligent species should lose parts of their body regularly. It indicates disease or decay. Hyeri, who had been asked to join the panel as a dermatology student, raised her hand. "May I show you something?" She walked to the front with a tablet. "This is not just humans," she said, showing images on the big screen. "Here are other earth animals that shed skin or outer coverings." The screen showed snakes shedding their skin, crabs molting their shells, and birds losing feathers. Even trees lose their leaves yearly in some regions, Irie continued. Renewal is common on Earth. The Meldarians whispered among themselves, clearly surprised by this information. Tahoe stood up suddenly. "But humans show pain. They scratch. They apply medicines to their skin. This can't be normal." Junho joined Hyeri at the front. "It's not pain, Tahoe. Sometimes our skin gets dry or itchy. The creams and lotions help keep our skin healthy and comfortable. But I've seen humans with red, peeling skin after being in the sun," Tahoe insisted. "They were clearly damaged." Dr. Minji nodded. "That's sunburn. Yes, our skin can be damaged by too much sun. But watch what happens." She played a time-lapse video showing sunburned skin healing over days, the damaged skin peeling away as new skin formed underneath. "Our ability to shed damaged skin and create new skin is what helps us heal," she explained. The lead Meldarian scientist, Dr. Huan, finally spoke. She had been quiet until now, carefully watching all the presentations. "May I examine a human skin sample myself?" she asked. Dr. Minji nodded. "Of course." Dr. Huan approached with her own equipment. She took a small, painless scraping from Chino's arm and examined it under her Meldarian analyzer. The room was silent as she worked. Finally, she turned to Captain Neri. "Captain, I believe the humans are correct," Dr. Huan said slowly. "Their biology is different from ours, but it appears to be natural for their species. The process is organized, not chaotic like a disease would be." Captain Neri seemed doubtful. "Are you certain?" "Look at the cellular patterns," Dr. Huan said, showing her findings on the screen. "This is a healthy biological process." Tahoe shook his head in disbelief. "But how can losing your skin be better than keeping it like we do?" Dr. Huan looked at Tahoe with understanding. "That is a good scientific question, young one. Perhaps there is something we can learn here." She turned to the human scientists. "I would like to propose a joint research project. If humans truly benefit from this skin renewal process, we should understand how and why." President Lee smiled with relief. "We would welcome such cooperation." As the meeting ended, Captain Neri removed her helmet for the first time, revealing her smooth blue face. "It seems we have much to learn from each other." Tahoe sat silently, his entire understanding of biology challenged. Could humans really be right about this? The university's main lecture hall had been quickly converted into a meeting room. On one side sat the Meldarian scientists in their white containment suits. On the other side sat human doctors, biologists, and government officials. Tahoe sat uncomfortably in the middle. President Lee stood at the front of the room. "We have arranged this scientific panel to resolve this misunderstanding. We welcome our Meldarian visitors and hope for a peaceful solution." Captain Neri nodded stiffly. "We wish no conflict. We are here to investigate a potential biological threat." Dr. Minji from the University Medical Center stepped forward. "There is no threat. What Tahoe has observed is normal human biology." She turned to the large screen behind her, which showed microscopic images of skin cells. "Human skin is made of layers," she explained simply. "The bottom layer makes new cells. These cells slowly move upward. By the time they reach the surface, they are dead and flat. Then they fall off. This happens all the time. One of the Meldarian scientists spoke up. No intelligent species should lose parts of their body regularly. It indicates disease or decay. Hayuri, who had been asked to join the panel as a dermatology student, raised her hand. May I show you something? She walked to the front with a tablet. This is not just humans, she said, showing images on the big screen. Here are other earth animals that shed skin or outer coverings. The screen showed snakes shedding their skin, crabs molting their shells, and birds losing feathers. Even trees lose their leaves yearly in some regions, Hayuri continued. Renewal is common on Earth. The Meldarians whispered among themselves, clearly surprised by this information. Tahoe stood up suddenly. But humans show pain. They scratch. They apply medicines to their skin. This can't be normal. Junho joined Hayuri at the front. It's not pain, Tayo. Sometimes our skin gets dry or itchy. The creams and lotions help keep our skin healthy and comfortable. But I've seen humans with red, peeling skin after being in the sun, Tayo insisted. They were clearly damaged. Dr. Minji nodded. That's sunburn. Yes, our skin can be damaged by too much sun. But watch what happens. She played a time-lapse video showing sunburned skin healing over days, the damaged skin peeling away, as new skin formed underneath. Our ability to shed damaged skin and create new skin is what helps us heal, she explained. The lead Meldarian scientist, Dr. Wan, finally spoke. She had been quiet until now, carefully watching all the presentations. May I examine a human skin sample myself? She asked. Dr. Minji nodded. Of course. Dr. Huan approached with her own equipment. She took a small, painless scraping from Chunho's arm and examined it under her Meldarian analyzer. The room was silent as she worked. Finally, she turned to Captain Neri. Captain, I believe the humans are correct, Dr. Huan said slowly. Their biology is different from ours, but it appears to be natural for their species. The process is organized, not chaotic like a disease would be. Captain Neri seemed doubtful. Are you certain? Look at the cellular patterns, Dr. Huan said, showing her findings on the screen. This is a healthy biological process. Tahoe shook his head in disbelief. But how can losing your skin be better than keeping it like we do? Dr. Huan looked at Tayo with understanding. That is a good scientific question, young one. Perhaps there is something we can learn here. She turned to the human scientists. I would like to propose a joint research project. If humans truly benefit from this skin renewal process, we should understand how and why. President Lee smiled with relief. We would welcome such cooperation. As the meeting ended, Captain Neri removed her helmet for the first time, revealing her smooth blue face. It seems we have much to learn from each other. Tahoe sat silently, his entire understanding of biology challenged. Could humans really be right about this? 3 days after the scientific meeting, Chunho approached Tahoe in their dorm room. The atmosphere between them had been tense, but Junho's face now showed a friendly smile. Tahoe, I have an idea, Junho said. My family owns a traditional Korean bathhouse. Would you like to visit it this weekend? The Meldarian scientists can come too. Tahoe looked up from his tablet. A bathhouse, where humans clean themselves. Yes, but it's more than that. It's a place where people care for their skin in ways that go back hundreds of years, Junho explained. I think it might help you understand us better. Tahoe was still unsure about human skin practices, but he was curious. I will ask Captain Nari and Dr. Huan if they want to join. That Saturday, a small group gathered outside the bathhouse. Tahoe, Junho, Hayuri, Captain Nari, and Dr. Huan. The 2 Meldarian scientists had left their containment suits behind, but still looked nervous. Chunho's father greeted them at the entrance. Welcome to our family bathhouse. We are honored to have visitors from another world. Inside, the bathhouse was warm and filled with steam. The walls were made of smooth stone, and several pools of water at different temperatures filled the main room. In one corner, people sat on small stools, scrubbing their skin with rough cloths. The first part of a traditional Korean bath is soaking in the hot water, Junho explained. Then comes something called session. Watch this. He led them to where an older man was scrubbing another customer's back with a rough mitt. As they watched, dead skin rolled off in small gray curls. Captain Neri gasped. They are removing their skin deliberately. Yes, but only the dead outer layer, Hayuri explained. It feels good and makes our skin healthier. Dr. Huan moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. The human appears to be enjoying this process. There are no signs of pain. Indeed, the customer was relaxing with his eyes closed, looking peaceful. Would you like to try? Shunho asked. Not the scrubbing, but just soaking in the water. After some discussion, the Meldarians agreed to dip their hands in the warm water. It was their first direct contact with a human environment without protection. As they sat by the edge of the pool, Taho watched humans of all ages caring for their skin. Children splashed in the water. Older people helped scrub each other's backs. Friends talked and laughed together. This is not medicine, Taho said slowly. This is caring. Yes, Junho nodded. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. It's not just about cleaning. It's about renewal. Dr. Huan was examining the dead skin cells under a small portable scanner. Fascinating. Your old cells make way for new ones. When our skin is damaged, we must live with that damage forever. Captain Neri looked surprised. Are you saying humans have an advantage over us, Doctor? In terms of regeneration, yes, Dr. Huan replied. Their constant renewal allows them to heal from minor damage completely. Our permanent skin means we carry every scratch and burn for life. Taho remembered all the small scars and marks on his own blue skin. Every Meldarian had them, permanent reminders of every injury. So what I thought was a weakness, Taho began, is actually a strength, Hayuri finished for him. Our bodies are always making themselves new. As they left the bathhouse hours later, Taho felt something he hadn't expected. Envy. Humans could renew themselves. They could heal completely from small wounds. They didn't have to carry every tiny injury forever. On the walk back to campus, Taho turned to Junho. I'm sorry I thought you were sick. I was wrong. Junho smiled. Different doesn't mean wrong, Taho. Sometimes it just means different. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Taho felt he was truly beginning to understand humans. 1 month had passed since the visit to the bathhouse. The Meldarian scientists had set up a temporary lab at Seoul International University. They worked side by side with human scientists, studying the differences between human and Meldarian biology. Taho had become their star assistant. His unique perspective as a student of both worlds made him valuable to the research team. Today, Dr. Huan and Dr. Minji were presenting their findings to a packed lecture hall. Scientists, students, and government officials from both planets filled the seats. Taho sat in the front row next to Junho and Hayuri. Our research has revealed something remarkable, Dr. Huan began, her blue face animated with excitement. Human regeneration goes far beyond skin. She clicked to the next slide, showing different human cells. Humans don't just shed and renew their skin, she continued. They replace most of the cells in their bodies over time. Blood cells, stomach lining, liver tissue, all regularly renewed. Dr. Minji stepped forward. What we've learned from Meldarians is equally fascinating. Their permanent biology gives them advantages too, like cellular memory that humans don't have. Taho listened with growing wonder. What had started as his horror at human skin shedding had led to major scientific discoveries for both species. After the presentation, Captain Nari approached Taho. Junior Observer Taho, your initial report about humans has led to unexpected benefits. The Science Council is pleased. Taho bowed his head respectfully. Thank you, Captain. But I was wrong about humans. Being wrong is often the first step toward new knowledge, Captain Neri replied. The best scientists are those willing to change their views when new evidence appears. Later that day, Taho joined Junho and Hayuri in the university cafeteria. As they ate lunch, Hayuri pointed to a small cut on her finger. Look, this happened 3 days ago. It's almost completely healed, she said. Taho examined her finger with interest. The cut was now just a thin pink line. If that happened to me, Taho said, I would have that cut mark forever. Junho looked thoughtful. But there must be advantages to your permanent skin too, right? Taho nodded. Our skin contains memory cells. They record experiences, extreme temperatures, pressures, even certain types of light. A Meldarian explorer can recall exactly what conditions they've experienced. That's amazing, Hayuri exclaimed. Our bodies don't remember like that. Taho smiled. Different, not wrong. That evening, Taho worked late in the lab, helping Dr. Huan with her research. She was studying a sample of human skin under a powerful microscope. Come look at this, Taho, she called him over. These are human stem cells. They can become many different types of cells as needed. Taho peered into the microscope. Could these help Meldarians? Dr. Huan nodded slowly. Perhaps. We're beginning trials to see if human stem cell treatments might help Meldarians recover from skin damage, something we've never been able to do before. So humans might help cure something that has troubled our people forever, Taho said quietly. Yes, and in return, we might help humans with our memory cell technology. Dr. Huan placed a hand on Taho's shoulder. This is why we explore, young one, to learn from each other. As Taho walked back to his dorm under the night sky, he thought about his journey. He had come to Earth thinking he would study strange aliens. Instead, he had discovered that what had first seemed disgusting, humans constantly shedding and renewing themselves, was actually their greatest strength. In his research journal that night, Taho wrote, "The universe creates different solutions to the same problems. Humans renew themselves constantly. Meldarians remain unchanged. Both approaches have value. Both have costs. In our differences, we find new possibilities for both our worlds." 6 months had passed since Taho first arrived on Earth. The university campus was now covered in autumn leaves, which fell and were replaced just like human skin cells. Taho smiled at this thought as he walked to his final presentation. The large auditorium was filled with people. Human and Meldarian scientists sat side by side. University officials and students packed the remaining seats. At the back, a group of new Meldarian exchange students watched nervously. Professor Kim introduced him. Today, Taho will present his exchange program research project, which has grown into something much more important than any of us expected. Taho stood at the podium, no longer the confused alien who had arrived half a year ago. My research project was supposed to be about human culture, he began. Instead, it became about understanding and accepting biological differences. He showed his first slide, a picture of himself looking horrified while holding one of Chunho's face masks. The audience laughed. Taho grinned. This was my first reaction to what I thought was humans peeling off their faces, he explained. I was sure I had discovered a terrible disease affecting all humans. He clicked to the next slide, showing his collection of skin samples and research notes. I was so certain humans were sick that I called a quarantine ship from my home planet. More laughter filled the room. Even Captain Nari, sitting in the front row, smiled at the memory. But what I discovered, Taho continued, was that different doesn't mean wrong or sick. Human biology is built on renewal. Meldarian biology is built on permanence. Both work well for our species. His next slides showed the joint research results. Treatments using human stem cells were already helping Meldarians with skin damage. Meanwhile, Meldarian memory cell technology was being tested to help human patients with memory loss. Because I was willing to learn I was wrong, both our worlds are finding new medical treatments. Tahoe said proudly. He moved to his final slide. It showed a picture of himself, Shunho, and Hayuri at the bathhouse, all smiling. Most importantly, I learned that friendship can exist across biological differences. Shunho and Hayuri helped me see past my fear and understand their world. I thank them for their patience. After the presentation, the new Meldarian exchange students surrounded Tahoe. Is it true humans shed their entire skin every month? One asked nervously. Yes, but you'll get used to it, Tahoe assured them. In fact, I've created this guide for new Meldarian visitors to Earth. He handed them small tablets containing information about human biology and tips for living among humans. Later that evening, Tahoe, Junho, and Hayuri sat in their favorite spot by the university lake. The sunset turned the water golden. I got accepted to the joint medical program, Hayuri announced happily. I'll be the first human to study Meldarian permanent biology healing techniques. And I'll be coming to Meldar next semester, Junho added. The first human exchange student. Tahoe smiled. You'll like it there. And I've already warned everyone not to be shocked when you shed your skin. They all laughed. What about you, Tahoe? Hayuri asked. Will you stay on Earth or go back to Meldar? Both, actually, Tahoe replied. I've been appointed as a junior ambassador between our worlds. I'll travel back and forth. Junho patted his friend's shoulder. From being horrified by human skin to becoming an ambassador. Not bad for 6 months' work. As night fell, Tahoe looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was his blue home planet. And here was Earth, his second home now. You know, he said thoughtfully, on Meldar we have a saying, the only permanent thing is knowledge. I never really understood it until now. What does it mean? Hayuri asked. It means that even though our skin never changes, our minds should always be ready to change, to learn, to grow. Tahoe smiled, just like human skin.